everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for September 8th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. The Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 54 in the house, and we had a veto competition, or at least I think we did. We have
Debatable.
some plans for the week. And things got a little messy. There was some almost kissing happening. It was quite a mess. And with me to talk about the mess is Kirsten. How you doing, Kirsten?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. We get to talk about Big Brother history. We get to talk about who we would kiss, marry, or evict. We get to talk about our favorite fruits. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. All right. Well, of course, as you know, Chelsea won the HOH. She nominated Angela and Chemo, um, with kind of the intention to target Angela initially. But there have been discussions primarily between Quinn and MJ, and then separately with Cam, about potentially turning the vote onto Chemo. And so we go into the veto competition with this notion that Chelsea does not want the veto to be used. If it is used, she's looking at Leah, and if it's not used, there's definitely a chance that this vote flips over onto Chemo.
And Chelsea said her HOH is now in God's hands, and so it's only natural what happened next.
Yeah. So before the veto, there wasn't much, but MJ did talk to Chelsea a bit more about the vote. Chelsea did make a little bit of a soft pitch to keep Chemo around, like, hey, if Chemo stays, then, we're on the good side of this trio. That's 3 votes to keep us. But MJ was still kind of pushing this idea that, like, nah, I really feel like, taking Chemo out, keeping Angela around might be the better idea. When they talked to Cam about it, he's also down for Chemo to go. But these are just preliminary conversations that we'll get more of later. So we'll come back to this.
Yes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
Used every other week. So why would you think it wouldn't be used this week?
Well, the veto draw happens. Quinn, Rubina, and MJ are chosen to play in the veto.
And they were all drawn, correct? Like no one picked someone. That was something I was having trouble parsing out.
I believe I'm sure that Quinn and MJ, I believe, were drawn.
Okay.
I cannot guarantee that Rubina was not chosen, but it would seem likely to me that they were all drawn. But they were talking about how Angela was like very happy that MJ got drawn. And let's be real, nobody's picking Quinn. In this movie.
No.
Turns out the veto competition is Otev. And it's still very hot here in Southern California. So they were telling them to make sure to stay hydrated. And because this could be, Otev can be very physical, very taxing, can take a long time. Lots of running around in hot weather might not be the best for the house guests. So we got a pretty good retelling of like really the entire competition, which is pretty rare because veto competitions, they can take hours. It's a lot to retell.
Yeah.
So you usually get like little bits and pieces. But it was Otev, and there are some fans in the house, and so I'm sure they were excited to play. So the first question for Otev was something along the lines of like, who didn't compete in the HOH, the first HOH? And everyone, they ran out. It was taking a long time. They were looking for their answer. Obviously, Tucker is the answer to that question. They're all looking for their Tucker pieces. And it took a while. I think, Quinn was probably like gathering his pieces for
He
for
had 2
later,
stacks.
getting his stack together, trying to gather, oh, look, this piece is pretty rare. I'm going to grab this one, pull it in the stack. And so, one by one, they come up, they start bringing up their Tucker answers. Angela at one point looks over and talks with MJ. MJ's like, "Oh man, I have Cedric," and Angela is like, "MJ's wrong," but thinks, "You know what? I'm not gonna pull a rock star. I
Yeah.
know better. I'm gonna say to MJ, no, no, no. I think you're right. I think it's Cedric. Don't worry about it." And so, of course, as they're all one by one pulling out their Tucker answers, Tucker, 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 and MJ pulls up Cedric. Angela is beaming like,
Like, haha, I'm not out.
tricked her. MJ, the only person to get this one wrong, answering Cedric, except except Cedric was the right answer. And so
MJ
won
wins.
in the first round and everyone got out.
Okay. I do think based on what like what I was hearing yesterday, like the question did seem a little bit confusing. Like I think people understood it as like who was the first one in the HOH competition that was eliminated and not which house guests weren't eligible to play, which of course was Cedric and Chelsea who couldn't play. And so I do think it was like a little bit of a tricky question for round one. And I think that was probably done on purpose. I think production was so sick of them all studying together that they were like, hey, let's do something funny.
So, yes, every single one of them was wrong except for MJ, and so for the first time ever, in the history of Otev, we not only didn't go to the final round, but we just didn't go to any round other than the first round. This is
Yeah.
not supposed to be a difficult. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna complain. This is how I would like Otev to be. I would like it to be a harder thing. Now, this is the problem, though. I don't think it was a harder thing. I think
I
this is just the perfect representation of this cast.
I love that Angela specifically brought up not wanting to be a rock star. Because I do believe, 6 years ago today, you and I were sitting here on a Sunday updating about Rockstar and Otev, I'm pretty sure. And by not saying something, she caused like she did like the most rock star thing possible by everyone being wrong. And then it was over. Cause I assume if they were all wrong, they would just do another question and start over. It's not like nobody can win the power of veto.
Probably. That I would imagine they just scrap the round at that point. Um, Man, I could not believe. I was like, what? Because when I heard it, they were like, "Oh yeah, it ended in one round." I was like, "That's not how Otev works. How could only one person can get out in a round? How would that even
Yeah.
happen?" Like, no, no, they
Mhm.
all got the question wrong. Like, wait, you can get the question wrong?
Well, you know what? That's a new and exciting way for Otev to go, and I hope in future seasons maybe it's not everyone's wrong except for one in the first round. But like if Otev could presumably be done in 2 rounds or 3 rounds or just anything less than the full number of rounds, like that's exciting. I love that.
It truly is. I cannot wait to see how they edit this together, in the episode because, I really think this is the kind of thing that, like, this season will be known for the
Yes.
one round Otev.
I love it.
Because, again, like, we've talked all season long about how the strategy this season has not exactly been the
Yeah.
highest of tiers. And so, this being such a perfect representation of that, I think is is really what a lot of this season is gonna be remembered for. And
Yes.
so there it is. MJ has the veto.
Beautiful. And like I cannot emphasize enough how fun this is and how much the like poor gameplay is making the season so fun for me. I think I've called it like Big Brother Oops All Faute like a bunch, and it's how it feels, and it's just so enjoyable and such a breath of fresh air for something different to happen. And like what if this becomes a season that future players are shown in sequester and dictates like future seasons? Like, that's so fun. I'm sure it won't be. They'll probably be, no, BB16 forever. We'll never give you anything else. But like, scenarios, it could be so fun.
Well, so that's what happened. Angela trying to trick MJ was a funny story to hear after the fact. Ironically, though, this kind of further solidified to MJ that Angela is not a threat in any capacity, and that Chemo really should be the one to go. She definitely does not want to use the veto. So the intention right now is for MJ to keep the nominations the same for the first time all season. So I'm sure production, the diary room, will have something to say about that. That's not how it works, but I'm sure that they want this veto to be used.
I think that like a lot of like not I guess not a lot, but like Chemo should definitely want it used so that someone could go up that would go home over him. Angela obviously wants it used so that she's not on the block. I think that Chelsea should want it used because she should want to put up Quinn because Quinn is by far the best target for her and would be a really excellent first juror. Like, I really think that he would do well in that position, and that should be something that people are thinking about at this point. But I haven't really heard any rumblings about, wanting to stack the jury in any particular way.
Yeah, I agree. And I mentioned this yesterday. I know that it's not necessarily like the most commonly held opinion, but I really do think that Chelsea should be targeting Quinn this week.
Yeah. No, I do fall on that still, but I would be so scared of a trio also at this point in the game. Like, it's fully like 1/3 of the house will never betray each other. So like getting Chemo is not the worst.
It's not the worst, but like I really like if I just keep looking at the cast, the remaining cast, and nobody in that trio is targeting Chelsea anytime remotely soon. And whereas Quinn and or Leah, I think both of them could absolutely target Chelsea, could absolutely put Chelsea in an awful position where she's up against T-Core on the block or something worse like Angela. There are scenarios that are very, very bad for Chelsea because of Quinn and Leah. They're the only people that would do that. And I really think that that trio, while dangerous in the very, very long term, is very good for Chelsea specifically. It's not good for MJ. It's not good for Cam. It's not good for anybody else other than T-Core, those 4 people. There's 9 people left in the game. 4 people, not a bad space to be, especially because they haven't been the best at competition so far, as we just saw. So it's not even likely that that trio will remain anyway. You're probably looking at Cam, MJ winning at least a few of those competitions and whittling down some of that trio for you while maintaining the safety that trio gives you. And so I do think it's a dual benefit. One is that I do think keeping the trio is good for Chelsea actively. The other is I think taking Quinn or Leah, but probably Quinn, out is actively good for her as well.
Yeah.
I understand that people might disagree with the trio side of it, but I still think that taking Quinn out is actively good for her regardless. That's how I feel. I feel like that this is a little too weak of a move. I think that we need to be a little bolder here at the final 9.
Yeah. I think honestly though, she's in a spot where she can't go wrong. Like, she's fine. She'd be fine either way. And I just want to be very clear because a lot of people are saying, oh no, but why would it be Quinn over Leah? It should be Leah over Quinn, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I don't care that much between the two of them. They're both big threats to Chelsea. The reason why I say Quinn is because I am thinking of how I would want the jury to be stacked, and I think Quinn would be a really good presence to be the first juror and kind of set the tone for Jury House. That's my reason why it would be him over Leah.
I mean, I would say Quinn because he currently has a slightly better track record in competitions. Theoretically, is going to perform better in physical competitions, which you always have to be worried about. In addition to that, Quinn has a better relationship with the trio than Leah does. The trio is pretty out on Leah. And granted, they're out on Quinn as well. But in terms of what Quinn might do, like Quinn could pull a fast one and not target the trio and target you instead. Whereas I think I think Leah is a little more likely to still be
Mhm.
worried about the trio long term. So either way, I think either one of them could go. Quinn also just has right now a little more sway in the house. I think that could change because I do think Leah is a little more dangerous socially, especially if Quinn is gone.
I think a
So I
lot
could
more
really see
dangerous
either one of them.
socially.
All
Um,
right. So somebody did ask in the chat earlier, what about MJ? I think if you're not Chelsea, Chemo's the obvious choice
yeah.
for every single one of the 4 votes that are there on Chemo. For Quinn, Leah, Cam, and MJ, Chemo is the very, very obvious choice. You vote Chemo out. And luckily for them, they have those votes, with or without Chelsea's permission. You know, would they do it without Chelsea's permission? Probably not. But Chelsea is
I
currently not pushing
mean,
back.
people have been doing a lot of stuff without permission this season, Taran. I don't know if
I don't think
permission
Cam
is
would.
as important.
I don't think that's Cam.
Yeah, he's Cam. I love Cam so much.
So MJ and Chelsea, they talk about this. They talk about the votes. MJ is looking at like next week. She feels okay. This week is already over. Don't use the veto. Vote out Chemo. Next week, put up T-Core and Angela. Angela wins the veto. Maybe send T-Core home, according to MJ. Oh boy,
Angela wins the veto. Okay.
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's more likely someone else would use the veto on Angela than she would win it, just based on what we've seen so far.
But even more likely, maybe we don't even do T-Core. Maybe then we backdoor Quinn. And so really like MJ's looking at Angela, Quinn, or T-Core next week. Obviously, you know, one of those targets is a little more valuable than the others. But even getting Quinn out wouldn't be the worst for MJ at this point because it might give her a better chance of winning more competitions. But you have to be worried about keeping both T-Core and Chelsea in the game if you're MJ because those are the 2 people that can like for sure beat you in the final 2. So either way, that's what MJ's talking about. And it's valuable that she's talking about this because she's still talking about backdooring Quinn, which is going to be important to Chelsea very soon. So Chelsea also talks to Cam, and they also talk about getting rid of Chemo this week. Chelsea is still down. Cam thinks it's the move. They just need to make sure that Quinn and Leah are on board. And because Chelsea does not want to break a tie. There's no world where there's like 3 votes or worse, 2 votes. MJ and Cam get abandoned by Quinn and Leah. But she does not want to show her own cards and send Chemo out herself. I would assume that if it comes down to a tie, Chelsea would just evict Angela. And I actually think I think that's the better play for between the 2. But that's where Chelsea stands.
I feel like the game has reset several times this season, and getting rid of Angela would be kind of another little reset because there's no easy, obvious pawn to put up, which is kind of fun. But Chelsea, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying like, oh, Chelsea only plays when she's not HOH. She's not playing Big Brother this week. No, like it's obviously very intentional that when Chelsea has power, she wants it to like feel calm and not chaotic, which is very powerful. It's not that she's not playing, it's that she's playing intentionally.
Yeah. Well, they talk about MJ, how they feel pretty good about her. Cam's biggest concern is that MJ might want to eventually go with Quinn and Leah, which she quite frankly should. I think she beats them both. I mean, because again, like if you're MJ, she kind of has like her pick of the litter. Like, who does she want to go to the end with? Because everyone wants to be working with MJ right now. And she's proving herself to be pretty effective in competitions. She's building a resume for herself. So if you're MJ, you don't want to like jump in all on board with Quinn and Leah right now. That's not the plan. She doesn't want to go to the final 3 with Quinn and Leah. But getting to the end with at least one of them and maybe like a final 2 spot wouldn't be the worst thing. The trio's a little dangerous because they have 2 built-in votes. T-Core being the most dangerous there for the final two. Chelsea is super, super dangerous. Her actual final two in the game right now is with Chelsea, and she,
Mhm.
I think, definitely loses to Chelsea. So she definitely wants to avoid that. Even Cam, I think, is a little dangerous for her in a final two scenario. I think that could be a little bit up in the air between the two of them, which leaves, obviously, Quinn, Leah, and Angela as her best bets as final two people. So I think Cam is right to be worried that she might be looking in that direction. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like she actively is. And that's what
Mhm.
Chelsea says. She says, well, I'm not really that concerned about her going in that direction because she's still talking about backdooring Quinn as early as next week. So I think that she's with us.
And I mean, there's no evidence that she wouldn't be. MJ having like even a little bit of information is very interesting and exciting, probably for her too. But I guess she probably thought she had information this whole time.
Well, Chelsea says the current hit list, essentially, in terms of priority, will do chemo. Then she's looking at Leah. Then she's looking at Quinn. Then Angela, making a final five of herself, Cam, MJ, T Core, Rubina. At which point the goal is to get the three of herself, Cam, and T Core to the final three. Now, obviously, the idea to bring T Core to the final three with the two of them is not ideal for the two of them because T Core
Mhm.
probably beats the two of them at that point. Depending,
Yeah.
things could change. Comp wins could impact how people view things, but she's definitely one of the toughest people to beat.
Yeah.
And if you have the choice between like T Core and say Rubina to bring to the final three, probably bring Rubina. But this is sort of like a thing that they've been talking about for a little while. So it is sort of how they're viewing things. Um, it's it's a terrible idea for Cam, and I will say
Yeah.
this: I think Cam is the person most dedicated to this final three, because I think that
Yes.
T Core is a little more interested in bringing her own people. Chelsea is like hit or miss on T Core at times. I think Cam is the one that's been pushing this final three the most, and I think it's the most losing scenario for Cam. I think he locks himself out of a win in that space. I think that he cannot
Well,
beat T-Core or Chelsea.
what do you think Cam's winning scenario is? Like
I
Angela?
I think Cam is very similar to MJ, but maybe slightly elevated depending on where things go. Because I think that Cam would have like against MJ, he might have like Chelsea. Actually, I mean, it depends. It depends on how he treats Chelsea.
Yeah.
But he might have. It's really actually it depends on T Core. If T Core decides to go with Cam, I think Cam wins against MJ. If she decides to go with MJ, MJ wins against Cam. But either way, I think that he has a great chance to beat Quinn or Leah or Angela at the moment. And then still a chance to beat Chemo or Rubina as well, depending on how things go there. I think that and I think MJ does also. It's just that against Chemo or Rubina, you have to worry about T Core being influential on the jury
Mhm.
with two locked in votes there. So but I don't think I think that right now the worst jury people are. I mean, Angela's bottom tier. Can't win against anyone. Then Quinn and Leah are right now kind of like on the outs, looking not great. Leah losing. Joseph was not great. Um, and we'll see where her relationship with Angela stands. Leah probably has a slight edge over Quinn, I would say at this point, because Quinn's a guaranteed vote for Leah. Angela's ideally a vote for Leah. And she did get some respect from the previous week. But
Mhm.
uh, it depends again on like how competitions play out. I do think Leah beats Quinn in a jury vote. And then you have like Rubina and Chemo, where it's like they probably wouldn't win against most people, but it depends on how T Core is able to influence things on the jury. Then you've got Cam and MJ, who are in that fray, and then Chelsea and T Core at the top, I think.
Okay. I don't know why, but just in my heart, I think Angela has better chances than what gets discussed. I just feel like her speeches are good and she could maybe like guilt trip people into voting for her, but like it's not relevant right now anyway, so we don't have to go there.
Well, that's the idea from Chelsea. Cam says, and I thought this was very fun. This was very interesting to me. Cam says the smartest thing you and Brooklyn did in this game was get close to MJ. And Chelsea's like, oh yeah, I mean, I didn't even do it intentionally, really. It just kind of happened naturally. And it was like, this was our exact analysis at the time, was that this is the best thing they have in the game, but they're not doing it intentionally and they're not taking advantage of it as they should. And if Chelsea had recognized the value of MJ like a month ago, or more or whatever, the Pentagon probably never breaks up. The collective is probably fine. She's able to keep that structure in place, even with Quinn acting a fool. And everything is gonna be okay. And she doesn't have to do all the stuff she's doing. But either way, she recognizes the value now, and they're in a much better position.
And you know what? Sometimes people are better at Big Brother on accident than others are on purpose, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay, so Angela, she's starting to spiral. She lost the veto, and now she's looking at the votes, right? There's 6 votes,
Yes.
and Quinn is one of them. And she's up against Chemo, which means T-Core and Rubina are obviously voting to keep Chemo. Quinn's obviously voting against her in her mind. That means she already locked up has 3 votes against her. She feels like she's going home. Rightfully so, I think. If Quinn is against her, why would Chelsea break the tie to keep her, especially after their conversation the other day? Why would she ruin her relationship with the trio? All it would take is one of Leah, Cam, or MJ to flip on her, and it wouldn't even be in Chelsea's hands at all. She tries to talk to Leah about this, and she tries to calm her down. She tries to be like, "Listen, we don't know that it's over yet. Like, it's not, don't worry about it." But that is not going to work. Angela is going to spend the rest of the day / night kind of in spiral mode, kind of trying to eavesdrop on people and spy and doing her Angela thing.
Yes, and to be noted for all of the evening's events, they did get alcohol last night because, well, Otev was over in 1 round, so they're going to need some content to fill the rest of the Wednesday episode with.
There is also a little visionaries meeting that happens. Quinn, Chemo, and T-Core. What a throwback. It's kind of awkward. It's kind of an awkward meeting. It's like, hey, can we still work together? Yeah, of course. And hey, is Chemo good? Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's good. And how are you feeling? I'm feeling fine. I mean, Chelsea told me I'm good, but yeah, I'm always nervous. I'm always nervous. Quinn doing his Quinn voice. And then it's awkward because the topic quickly changes. Like Quinn starts talking about the Otev competition, and then they get off of strategy talk fairly quickly. And the vibe is just off.
Yes. It's just not right. It's not how it used to be.
So, as Kirsten mentioned, they get some alcohol. They start playing some games. Various games. Like the what was it? Kiss, Marry.
It was Kiss, Marry, Evict. They played Truth or Dare. Very slumber party vibes.
Yes. This gets into some drama because there's a lot of kiss talk. Leah said that she would marry Quinn. Oh boy.
And Kate, I feel like we need to break down a little bit how these sorts of games work. Obviously, in RHAP, historically, it's always been ding, marry, kill. There's lots of versions of this game. When you say who you're gonna marry, it's like who you like but are not interested in, because the person you're interested in, you're gonna kiss or ding or whatever. Like marry it, it's just who you're not gonna kill. I feel like in general, if you're playing these games, it's just who you wouldn't kill / evict, but it's not who you're like excited about.
Probably, I think it depends on your options, right?
Yes.
Like if you have a plethora of options, then it's like in this scenario, the kiss is like the person that I would want to temporarily engage with. Whereas the Mary might be like a more long-term person that I like really like
Well,
and would
it also
be happy to be with.
it also gets into because people play in different ways. I feel like sometimes you talk about like, oh well, but the person you marry, you don't like. People would be like, oh, like I'll pick Mary because it's the person I'd want to like kiss for the rest of my life. But like sometimes in the rules of the game, it's like, no, 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 you're marrying them, but that doesn't mean you get to kiss them. Kind of like you
Wait,
have.
really?
It depends on who you're playing with and what the
That's a
rules
really
are.
strange marriage.
It's well, I mean, if you look in the history of marriages, there's been lots of marriages in name only. It's okay. There's a lot to discuss, a lot to believe in. They're not real marriages, so it's not consummated. You know.
Well, either way, there was a lot of listen, there's a lot about that. And but most dramatically, there's this big thing of like, okay, well, who's gonna kiss Quinn? Who's gonna do it? Um, and there was this talk like, oh, Rubina, are you gonna kiss Quinn? And she was like, I'm down. They were like, Quinn was like, do you want me to be murdered by
I
Tucker?
Yeah, well, because Quinn could run, but Tucker would always find him and he would kill him. And it's like, okay.
Did we not play hide and go Veto? He's good at this.
What?
Cam
What?
was trying to talk them down. Cam was like Tucker's wingman last night because we'll talk about it later, but like Cam was trying to talk Rubina down. Cam was like the matchmaker. Cam was like the ultimate Tubina stan in the house. He was like the shipper, the ally to the shippers because he was like, guys, come on. You don't want to do this. Tucker's at home. You like Tucker. Stop pretending you don't like Tucker. And they did not kiss. So then it was like, oh, but Leah, what about Leah? And she's like, no.
And that is why the correct choice is that you should be marrying Cam. If you're someone who is choosing between the men, Cam is the marriage material.
So the reason why Cam was talking to Rubina about Tucker is because she was, when Tucker was in the game, we would often have Rubina worrying about Tucker and her relationship with him. And now that she's got a couple of drinks in her, and I think there was even a little bit before that, but like she's thinking about Tucker and thinking about how he's out of the house.
Yes.
He might be doing some things. Who knows? She doesn't know. And so as Cam kind of puts it, she's trying to sort of guard herself against the potential reality of coming out of the house to not being with Tucker by being like, yeah, it's not like we're in a relationship. It would be fine if he did it, I guess. Like, and she's worried and all of this stuff. And Cam is trying to again talk her to like, Tucker liked you. Stop it. Like, you're gonna be a thing outside this house. He's out there waiting for you. And so there was a bunch of that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also obviously I don't know what Tucker's extracurricular activities are outside of the house. I can't speak to that. But it's also like I think it would be probably fine even if he was and then they started dating when Rubina got like these are adult people who can move in adult ways in the world and communicate on their own and figure out what they want to do for their relationship. Like it's fine. They're grown.
They can kiss whoever they want.
Exactly. Again, they're
Oh.
not in a committed relationship. They can kiss whoever they want.
Well, there's some more drama, a little bit more game related, because Rubina had been talking to Tikor and had mentioned to her that where are your shields in the game? Like, we get this. We understand this, right, Tikor? Like, Chemo and I, we're basically your shields in this game. And Tikor didn't like this being said. She ends up eventually getting really upset about this and kind of starts crying a little bit. And she's like, "Just Rubina, I don't want you to feel that way. I don't look at you as a shield in this game. Like, you're my friend." And and you know, maybe without the drinks, this would have been a different conversation. Maybe it would have been like, that's fine. Like, if that's what you want. But maybe with the drinks, little bit of a different conversation.
A
Rubina's
couple of
like, listen.
drinks changes everything.
Yeah. She's like, Tikor, I've been on the block twice. You haven't at all. It's inevitable. I'm not mad about it, but we're your shields. Come on. Tikor's like, no, that's not how it is. You're my friends. You need to believe me. You need to believe me. This is not what it is. And Rubina's like, Tikor, you got to meet me at least halfway. Whether you intended it or not, I am a shield for you. I'm not mad about it. I'm not accusing you of anything. But come on, the least you could do is admit it. Like, come on. But Tikor does not want to admit it. And Rubina continues, look, I don't mind. I wouldn't be upset even if it was intentional and you were taking advantage of it. I don't care. I'm your friend. That's what I care about. And I want to support a cause that is bigger than me. Tikor's like, what do you mean? She's like, you know what I mean. Now, worth noting, this is something that Rubina has talked about before, that that she suspects, probably because Tikor has kind of talked about it a little bit, but like suspects that Tikor, Cam, and Chelsea may be working together in some capacity to get to the end, to protect each other. And she's totally fine with it. In fact, wants to support it. But I think also a little bit just wants Tikor to admit that she's a little bit of a shield. And she says, listen, if I'm able to walk away from this experience with us as friends and have a relationship with Tucker, like, that's cool with me. I'm really happy about that. And Tikor's like, well, same, minus the Tucker thing. But I'm just confused. I'm just upset about this whole situation. Rubina's like, that's okay. That's fine. Sometimes I'm just too real. And Tikor's like, no, I want you to be real. Like, that's fine. It's fine.
Sometimes I'm just too real. Me too. She's just like me. It's so, like, I mean, Rubina's right, but I don't think that Tikor set out intentionally to make her friends shields for her. It's, I think, just a happy side effect. And so I understand why she doesn't want to be like, yeah, you're my shield. Like, you don't want to be saying that to your friends.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting conversation because like, basically what Rubina is saying is that, like, I'm happy to be your shield. And Tikor was like, what? You're not my shield.
Yeah. And it's like, I also think then there's like the criticism of, oh, well, why does Rubina like feel happy to be a shield? And it's like, can you imagine that just because she says that, it might not 100% be what she means? Like, you actually don't have to be 100% honest in the Big Brother house. That might be news to some people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 100%, but I think she is fine with it. I think
to a certain extent.
Yeah. And like, and I don't think I think that largely this is just, she very clearly cares about her relationship with Tucker. She very clearly cares about her relationship with Tikor and Chemo. And that, I think, genuinely is the bigger priority for her in the game at this point. And I think that the reason because, like, strategically, it doesn't make sense for her to say this, right? Like, she's saying this because she cares about the friendship. And because she cares about the friendship, she wants Tikor to know, like, this isn't a situation where you're snowing me and I don't know what's happening. Like, whether you're doing this intentionally or not, I understand that I'm your shield. I'm giving you permission to use me as a shield because I don't want this to be an issue in our friendship. And so when Tikor says, what? That's not what's happening at all. Rubina's like, come on. Like, I just want us to acknowledge that this is happening because I don't care that you're doing it. I just want us to be on the same page because I care about our friendship. I think that's where Rubina was coming from. And I think that Tikor, I can definitely buy that she's not intentionally doing this and doesn't really see it this way. But I think that she probably struggled to change her perspective to see it from Rubina's side of things in this conversation.
And I do think that the age difference between Rubina and Tikor gets highlighted through this type of conversation, because just by the fact of being a little bit older, Rubina has more life experience and has, seen more kinds of relationships and maybe can parse out the social bits a little bit more. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't say anything about either of them as people, and I think they're going to leave the game and be friends and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. All right. So, back to the Quinn and Leah situation. Because, again, Leah said she'd marry Quinn. Like, oh. Yes. Okay, hold on. Well,
no, not the wahoo.
But Quinn has another question for Leah.
He needs to consider the proposal.
He says, hey, Leah. So obviously you said no to kissing me. That's chill. Not mad about it. But like, did you say no to kissing me because you didn't want to or because of strategy? And Leah says, probably the second one. And let me tell you, Quinn's face.
Well, okay.
Was literally this.
Again, that doesn't mean that that's why she didn't kiss him. Like, people are taking this as like, Leah confessed she has a crush on Quinn. She wanted to kiss him, but she didn't because of like, oh my God, is it like the Corey America showmance is like a once in a generation type of thing. That doesn't typically happen. And so I think you have to be prepared that that's not going to happen again. And again, Leah's not going to say to his face, oh, it's because I didn't want to, and make him feel bad about their relationship and then possibly hurt their strategic partnership moving forward. Come on.
Relevant to this discussion, perhaps, is that she had a conversation, and again, the drinks were flowing. But also, she had a conversation with Chemo a little bit earlier, talking about, guys in the house. It seemed as though she was talking about like Cedric, like Cedric would be a person that she would be mildly interested in, perhaps. But what she was saying was that, like, it's also maybe I've just been in here for a while and I've had limited options. And I'm feeling a certain way. And once I get out of the house and I have a lot more options, I probably won't be looking at people in the same way. Yeah. So listen, I think it's very reasonable to assume that she might be just honest in this moment. She was feeling some drinks. Maybe she did want to kiss Quinn in that moment. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, obviously we can't get in their heads. But obviously, like, if that was how she felt, I think a kiss would have meant something very different for Leah than it would have for Quinn.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yes. I would assume that that is probably the case as well. But either way, it was very funny.
And they're just, it's so funny because then they're talking and it's like, oh, it's like we're in the house with a bunch of 12-year-olds who like don't want to say anything. And then Leah's like, but then Quinn's like, yeah, but like you want to be like a 12-year-old. And he's like, and then you're like this, like, oh, I don't want to say, like, I don't typically watch Quinn and Leah on the feeds if I've got a choice. But like when they're together, like I'm fine watching them separately. I don't love their one-on-one conversations because it's very cringe for me. Like Quinn is cringe and he is free, and I love that for him, but I still have an aversion to secondhand cringe. And so I'm always taken aback by the way they like hit each other with the pillows and are like giggly and all of that. It's just a bit much for me personally.
Yes. Well, I mean, that is, again, it's worth noting, especially if it's not something that you have been tracking, that the current status of their relationship is considerably better than it has been all season. That since especially the eviction last week, I mean, since Quinn won HOH last week, but then coming into this eviction and into this week, I was predicting that if there was a renom, it would be between Quinn and Leah, which it likely would have been, and that at that point Leah would throw Quinn under the bus because why wouldn't she? However, as of right now, there's no threat of a renom, and they seem to have only gotten closer. They spend a lot of time with each other. They are very giggly. The flirting is definitely much more one-sided, but it definitely still exists in some capacity. And they are pretty locked in game-wise at the moment. So that is worth tracking on the strategic landscape of things.
Yeah. And just like cannot give enough credit to Leah for the way that like she went into the house saying men are easy to manipulate and my plan is to manipulate men, and she has executed on that with basically every man in the house at different points. Like good for her. I respect a queen that goes in with a theory, with a plan, and executes on the plan. I just don't. I'm not a flirty person, and so sometimes when like watching other people flirt, it makes me uncomfortable. And like I have to go to therapy for that myself. That's not something I can put on them.
All right. Well, Tikor, Chemo, and Rubina talk late into the night, as they do. And Tikor brings up the awkward Quinn conversation. She did not get good vibes from it. Quinn did not seem very reassuring about Chemo staying, and it's making her a little paranoid. She's a little concerned that if they do not have Quinn's vote for Chemo to stay, does that mean they don't have the votes for Chemo to stay? So she's come up with a plan. She would like to try to pitch to Chelsea and, by extension, MJ, that they should all work together and they should use the veto and backdoor Quinn this week, which is what I think Chelsea should do. It's not what I think MJ should do, but MJ has already shown in the past that she will do what Chelsea is able to convince her to do, whether it is in her interests or not. So there's certainly a chance of this working. And MJ has talked about specifically backdooring Quinn as early as next week. So it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility in her mind. So they would like to do this. They need to talk to Chelsea. They need to talk to some people and see if they can make this pitch happen, get this week rolling in a different direction. And of course, when Tikor says she wants to talk to somebody, we all know it definitely happens very quickly. In fact, we all know that so well that even Rubina knows that, because Rubina says to Tikor, listen, we have to actually do this tomorrow, because Tikor, you say that we're going to do things all the time and you don't actually do them. So let's make sure we actually do it this time, because we should be doing this.
So true. Facts.
So this is basically the Hail Mary play here. The vote is currently on Chemo. MJ currently plans to not use the veto, so Chemo would likely leave this week if nothing else changed. Now, that doesn't mean things won't change or can't change. I'm sure this vote could go back and forth, especially with the influence that Tikor can sometimes have in the game. However, she's trying to take an early play here and propose what is a very good plan for both her and Chelsea by taking out Quinn this week. Now, I do think her proposal is going to be Quinn, despite the fact that Chelsea already said that Leah was her preferred option to go up on the block as a renom. Now, maybe it's because when Chelsea talked to T-Core about it, she mentioned that she was concerned that Leah wouldn't actually go home if she put her on the block. And so there's like some worry that Chelsea would be hesitant to do Leah if she didn't have to. But T-Core thinks that Quinn is the easier target to get on the block, which may or may not be true at this point. I think Chelsea, again, would be much more inclined to do Leah right now. But I think in T-Core's mind, because Quinn is the better target, the easier person to actually take out, that would be easier for her to pitch. Again, I think Quinn is the better target also, but Leah might be the easier person to convince Chelsea to put up on the block. We'll see. We'll see if anything even comes of this at all, if T-Core actually follows through with this, or and then we'll see if it has any grounds. Because again, I think it's a good plan for Chelsea, not a good one for MJ. But Chelsea has shown some reluctance to do this. She wants to play it a little safer this week, and it's obviously not in MJ's interest at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, all we can do is wait and see. I think Chelsea's fine no matter what happens this week. I think, like, regardless on if you want to argue if her nominations were the 100% correct ones or not, whatever, she's in a great spot. I don't think anything could happen this week that would really tank her. She's fine.
Okay, so anything else, Kirsten, to talk about from yesterday?
Can I get on like a soapbox for like 1 minute?
Please.
I'm so mad at Big Brother production. Once again, they put these fish in the house, and they're real fish and they're real animals.
Yeah.
And they use them like they're furniture and leave it up to the house guests to take care of them. And since Tucker's been gone, who was the only one who actually cared about the fish have been dying.
They were dying when Tucker was there too.
Like, well, yeah, but he was doing his, like, he was at least trying, right? And so it feels like now nobody cares enough to try to save the fish, and production should be stepping in to feed the fish and take care of them because they're real animals. And I just don't think it's cute that they like use them as decor and don't respect them as actual lives. And they were talking about it yesterday, like, I guess it was probably Saturday night that they were talking about it, and like, oh, that fish is like on its side, and is it alive or is it not alive? And I was just like, it's really messed up, and I wish that production would not use animals as decor anymore. Like, it's like, I get, oh, it's so cute, they're in the fishbowl and we're watching them in a fishbowl, and then there's a fishbowl and no, like, they're animals and they're alive animals. Enough. It's animal cruelty at this point.
Yes, I will co-sign that. If you're going to have fish, make sure you're taking care of them. Make sure they're not dying. I think is a pretty reasonable request.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, that is what we have for you then today. I will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including if T-Core follows through on this pitch to try to change up this week and get Quinn backdoored. So stay tuned for that. Of course, tonight there will be an episode where we will hopefully get to see a little bit more of what happened on Thursday night, and then we'll get the rest of the stuff from this week. So far to the nominations, I will be live on Twitch watching the episode tonight. So tune in for that, and then after the episode, we'll be here talking through it all on the podcast. So that is what we have for you. Check out our scripted coverage we have going over on the scripted portion of this podcast. We're doing the Tastemakers, talking about shows. We're doing Rings of Power, stuff like that. So check it all out. Kirsten, what are you up to?
We've got Mess Magnets every week, myself and Sasha Joseph talking about pop culture, celeb gossip, trending topics, all of that. And there's currently no Hot Dummies on Islands. So you can follow me everywhere else. That's TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, all of them, at Kirsten Said What.
All right. Well, thank you all again for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.